All right, all right. I think this is the place. My gosh, it's just getting me on. Okay, everybody, clear away here. That's construction zone coming up. I hear there's a lot of work in 37. That's somewhere we're gonna have to clear the way. I understand there's a temporary diversion that 37 is gonna come through the west side of this conference room, right here. I don't know when or where, but it's dusty in here. All right. Oh, hi, gang. Oh, glad to have you here. We have a wonderful program for you yet again at PMI's monthly events. And we're going to get to the folks and the interest here in just a second. But you all know that there's a little bit of business that we typically take care of. First, let's go to those slides, please. Oh, I have to click. All this cone stuff is getting me. Okay. Here we go. Oh, I didn't know this. PMI members, did you know you have access to 1,700 top business magazines, trade publications, and so forth because of your membership? Free for nothing. Go ahead to that, to PMI.org, membership business reading. Start exploring today. After this. So don't go now. Stay here with us, especially all those that are online. All right, that was cool. And we do want to recognize people who are new members. If you're a new member, please go into the chat, introduce yourself, say hi to everybody. Any new members in the room here, invite you to stand up, take a bow. We also want to acknowledge those that have been recently certified. So congratulations to these 14 people that are listed here on their new credentials, their certifications. We all celebrate with you. And again, go ahead and drop that in the chat if you went through and achieved this. We also want to recognize anniversaries. So here, we have a couple of people, Kimberly and Neil, 15 years with PMI CIC, got a half dozen people with 10 years service, and that's another 9 that have 5 years. So congratulations on the longevity award to these people. We do have some announcements of things that you can find on PMICIC.org. On the right-hand side, it's a place where you can just become active, okay? But through the list here, if you wanted to be a sponsor packages are now live at that website. I've done this. It's a lot of fun. Consider that. Also, if you happen to have job openings and you would like to submit a free job listing, that's done at the website as well. Third item up here is if you hit the calendar will have the downtown meetup, which is a week from this coming Friday. It's from 5 till 7 p.m. to Garage at Indy. Whoops, go backwards and cover everything. The board of directors meets which Monday? First Wednesday of the month. You're all invited if you wanted to. Don't lose your chapter benefits. Those of you that are new members, you can set up for auto renewal. Then you don't have to worry about it. And you can get the longevity award along the way because you didn't skip something good out of that. We do have a survey. It takes less than 60 seconds to be able to fill that out. And we invite that because we value your feedback. I'll pause, do this one a little slower. Let's hold September 14th and 15th. It's Pro Dev Day yet again. And the 3 central chapters, Central Indiana, Central Illinois, and Central Iowa, are hosting this. But if you're a member of any other chapter, you're invited to that as well. So you can register today at prodevday.com and take advantage of the early bird price that's there. Okay, so get that one. That's one. Put that on your calendar now. That would be a good thing to multitask. We do have a couple of chapters that are celebrating anniversaries in and of themselves. So we have Central Indiana with 35 years. Calumet that's joining us. We have the Indiana chapters are joining us online, if you didn't know that, with 25 years. And while we're talking about and acknowledging the other chapters, I'd like to invite Galen Hill, the president of the Central Indiana chapter, to kind of say a few words before we get into the real meat of the program.
Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. So very excited to have you with us, either in person or online. This particular program happens to be a really big deal because we're actually introducing the other 4 chapters within Indiana. Yes, there are 4 chapters. 2 of them actually, you should be able to hear them speak. That is the Calumet chapter and the Michiana chapter. But in addition to those 2 chapters, we have the Northeast chapter and the Southwestern chapter. So PMI does not require that you belong to one specific chapter. So if you wanted to, you could belong to any of the chapters within Indiana. We're very glad that you were a member of our chapter, but do keep in mind you can join those chapters as well if you want to. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let The two other chapters that are with us tonight, go ahead and introduce themselves. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. You guys hear me okay? I see heads nodding. So my name is Travis Harker. I'm the VP of Communications and Publicity for PMI Michiana. Been very excited to be a part of this event. And for anyone that's interested, I just want to throw out a quick plug. We are currently in the process of relaunching our website, pmimichiana.org. So for anyone interested in learning more about PMI Michiana, feel free to sign up for the newsletter and look at our social media posts. We've been partnering with Central Indiana and Calumet for this event for a little while now, and excited to meet some new individuals and get some new faces on our chapter as well as all the others in the state. Thank you for your time.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, I think it's working. This is Dan Zelife from the Calumet chapter. Welcome to the All in Indiana event. We're glad you joined us tonight, and we are looking forward to learning more about the happenings on State Road 37. All right. If you happen to be in the Calumet area, that's Northwest Indiana, hey, feel free to contact me between now and 6 o'clock tomorrow and get your own free beer. That's right. We're giving away beer at Byway Brewery. That's located at 8094 in Kennedy Avenue, where you can join us for our networking meetup. Have a great evening, and we look forward to our topic and speakers tonight. Thanks, Galen. Thank you, Travis.
Coming up soon enough, I can tell. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and advance it. We're there. Black and white slide, please. I don't know if black and white. I didn't know if you did this at all, but the characteristics of honesty, responsibility, fairness, respect are values that drive ethical conduct in the project management profession. And so we should all practice those great characteristics. Also, that all work presented here today is the intellectual property of the presenters. And as such, views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by said talkers up here on the stage are those, not necessarily those of PMI and PMI CIC. And in fact, the unauthorized reproduction and distribution of copyright work that you may see here is illegal under federal law. So let's not make this a federal case. But the interesting part is really this. 3 for the price of 1 today. 3 for the price of 1. We will have up here Keriann Rich, founder of Honest Digital. She brings knowledge and intentionality to every client project. I don't see intentionality in introductions like this very often. A journalism public relations degree from Ball State University. She has experience also in marketing and client relations. An expert in brand messaging, strategy, and bringing out your best in every campaign. In her free time, she enjoys reading, supporting local businesses, and stimulating the local economy by going out to dinner with her family. We'll also hear from Jennifer Beck. Jennifer, P, Senior Project Manager with INDOT's Greenfield District, covering projects in Hamilton and Timpson County. Her specialty is in partnership projects between INDOT and other local agencies, maybe like Fishers, we'll hear more in a second, delivering transportation projects that balance the needs of all the stakeholders involved. She has construction and management degree from Purdue University. She's been working with INDOT for 9 years, her most notable projects being the 37 Corridor Improvement Project, US 31 Freeway Upgrade, and various multiple State Road 32 added travel lane projects. But the first person, we're going to hear from is Hatem Mekky. Hatem is a PE and an MSCE, is the Assistant Director of the Department of Engineering for the City of Fishers. He enjoys helping the residents of Fishers by working to improve the city's infrastructure and making residents' commutes easier every year. That's awe-inspiring, frankly. He has a civil engineering degree from Southern Illinois University and earned his master's from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. He started with Fishers, I think, in about 2017. After about 15 years in the private sector, Hatem regularly collaborates with INDOT and other government entities in the design, review, and management of capital transportation projects. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Hatem Mekky to kick things off. Here, I'll get this thing out of the way.
Thank you. I do apologize. I do not know how to follow up this entertaining introduction. I really am sorry, but okay. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today and sharing your evening with us. This is the State Road 37 project that runs through the heart of Fishers, Noblesville, and Hamilton County. We're going to present to you today a couple of items that the project team has pretty much gone through the whole entire life of this project. We're going to have 3 portions that we're going to go through. We're going to go through the project initiation. So that's basically the collaboration between local entities and INDOT. We're going to go through the project development, which is kind of the meat and potatoes of this whole entire corridor. And then also we're going to go through the project communication and business outreach, which is through Honest Digital and Keriann. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Jennifer Beck right now, and she will give us exactly how this project was initiated.
Thank you. So I love the cones because it is also National Workzone Safety Awareness Week. So it's very convenient timing for this presentation and this display of safety. So thank you. The project initiation for State Road 37 truly was a project in its own. Henceforth, I have a good chunk of time in this presentation to explain how we even got to a point where a city was delivering a project on an INDOT facility, State Road 37. And as we all know, the more time you spend in project initiation, the better off you are during the development of the process. So we really spent a lot of time getting this figured out and getting this set up for success from the very beginning. And this all was happening back in 2010 through 2015 is what it took to get this project started. So we're talking over a 5-year span of what I'm about to tell you, let alone the 5 years after that Hatem will tell you about. So, does this not flip this slide down here? Okay, thank you. State of Indiana. So Department of Transportation is the state agency responsible for all interstates, U.S. highways, and state roads through the entire state. That includes over 29,000 lane miles and over 5,700 bridges. And I say this to give you an order of magnitude for what our agency is responsible for. And to maintain this infrastructure, lane miles doesn't only include pavement, this also includes traffic signals, signage, lighting, ITS infrastructure, which includes weigh stations, cameras, weather stations, all kinds of things that contribute to supporting traffic on that road. Now, we spend $2.5 billion a year to maintain these assets. And there's a lot of assets that need attention, so that money goes pretty quickly. It sounds like a big number, but it's not even enough to fully fund our maintenance program. So we maintain these assets with a 20-year asset management plan. And what that does is tells us over the next 20 years, which roads, which bridges, which signals, will need updating or maintenance in that time span. Now, it's a living document, so it needs to change over time, but in the next 20 years, we can tell you at any point what work we need to be doing. But of that 20-year plan, 5 years is actually funded. So from today to 2018, I can tell you every single road that we will be working on for the next 5 years. And that is because our funding is federal and state, and it takes 5 years to develop a project with federal funds. You can imagine federal money is great, but it comes with a lot of strings, and a lot of red tape, and a lot of processes that takes a lot of time to work through. So this is a 5-year process just to get a project out the door. So today, we are working on projects that you won't see in construction for 5 to 6 years. That being said, all of our assets are within the jurisdiction of a local agency. While we are the state of Indiana, we don't actually own any land per se. It's all within a county or a city or a town. So everything we do impacts local agencies, and our relationship with them is very important for us to be able to be successful, as well as them. And as you can see here, we have over 800 local agencies, so 91 counties and over 730 towns and cities in our state. I say this so that you can understand all these local agencies see that $2.5 billion a year and think, well, surely INDOT has enough money to fix my problem. Why is it not happening? And that's kind of the framework for the conversation here on State Road 37. So I'm gonna, for those who are not from Central Indiana online or even in this room, just to place link you a little bit, Hamilton County is a northern suburb of Indianapolis. It's the fastest growing county in the state, and it has major north-south traffic. Major north-south traffic that is commuter traffic. So Indianapolis is the biggest employer in our area. So you have a lot of that AM traffic in the morning, southbound going to Indianapolis to work, and then in the evening, headed home northbound. So the north-south traffic movement in Hamilton County is very important, and it has grown drastically over the past few years as that fastest growing county. So on this map, it's probably hard to see, but I'll explain for you. US 31, as mentioned before, is a project I've worked on, but it's a major north-south road on the west side of the county, and that goes through Carmel and Westfield. And that was recently upgraded to a freeway. It is 3 lanes each direction, full grade separated interchanges, and we are actively working on the upgrade up through the county line. The other north-south road used to be 431, it's now Keystone Avenue, and Keystone is actually, if you can tell here, it's a short road and it was a bypass, which is why it's a 3-digit number, but it didn't provide a lot of long-range connectivity for INDOT's benefit. So we actually worked a deal with Carmel where we relinquished that road to the city of Carmel, and they converted that portion. They turned it into Keystone Avenue, and they converted it to a freeway. And since it was a city street now, they could do it however they wanted. But it's a freeway, so grade separated interchanges, free flow traffic. Now, the other north-south corridor is a combination of 69 and 37. So those 2 roads connect on the southern end of Fishers, and then in the middle of Fishers, I'll go to that slide. In the middle of Fishers is where 37 splits due north and goes right into Noblesville. And you can see I-69 on this city map really splits the city in half, but it's obviously already a freeway. And we have upgraded that in the past few years to add travel lanes and add interchanges. So 37 is the one piece, north-south corridor of Hamilton County that we haven't done anything with yet. This is what spurred Fishers to reach out to INDOT because they were seeing traffic, they were seeing congestion. They are part of the fastest growing county and feeling that in their traffic. So what you see here is in the morning rush hour, at the bottom there is 126th Street. And this is an over mile-long queue of traffic in the AM trying to go to work. This is happening every single day, every single weekday, year-round for the city of Fishers. And the same thing's happening on the flip side when you're going home in the afternoon. So obviously the city recognized this problem and was hearing complaints from their residents. This area for Fishers has residential communities on both sides of 37, and there are schools on both sides, parks on both sides, and the traffic was so bad trying to get across 37 that they even had to have police monitor traffic at adjacent intersections because it was essentially gridlock. People couldn't get around People couldn't get to businesses, they couldn't get their kids to school, and they had to use a lot of local resources to be able to manage that. So again, clearly this was a problem for Fishers, and even as bad as it sounds, as I mentioned before, it still didn't stack up on the statewide level of being a problem that we would fund. So we have this situation's happening all over the state in different communities as well. It's not unique to Fishers, but it was clearly the #1 problem for Fishers at the time. This is when they engaged their partners, Hamilton County and Noblesville, to come up with a solution for this corridor. And they did a mobility study, which was to find what's the right fix for this? How do we fix this? Not only 37 traffic, but the cross traffic for the local roads. So they went in together to find that preferred solution. And spoiler alert, it's a grade separated freeway, which is already 3/4 of the way built today. So that's what the mobility study said. And that is when the city, Noblesville, and the county came to INDOT and said, hey, what are we going to do about this? We would like to see a freeway upgrade of 37. Not only that, but we want to lead the project because we want to be the face of it. We know the businesses, we know the community. This big of a project will have a big construction impact, and we're best suited to deliver it. Oh, and by the way, we're not like Carmel, we don't want to keep the road. So please, let us design your project, and then you deal with it in the long term. So that was how it was presented to us. And okay, we listen, we always listen. But we pause and assess the risk of the situation in front of us. So we have a local who wants to pick the design of our road, design the road, and not have to maintain it. So the first risk is, okay, well, your solution is a grade separated corridor, freeway upgrade, you might just say. And we actually looked at the corridor and identified a solution that kept the intersections at grade. It eliminated, or not eliminated, but reduced left turns along the corridor, which improves that north-south traffic flow. What it does not do is fix the problem for the local streets. All it fixes is the state road and that north-south traffic, which is really only what our purview is to fix. So that's why partnerships are so important, because it's not for the greater good of everybody to just look in a silo on the state road. So we understood that there would be risk if INDOT was to pursue our preferred solution versus the locals, because it wasn't addressing all the problems for the community. The other risk was roles and responsibilities for delivery. As I mentioned before, the city wants to lead a state project and make decisions on design for something that they don't want to keep long-term. They also want to be able to be that first contact for businesses. And that's actually a benefit for us, because that's responsibility out of our hands, one less thing for us to do. So the risk there's risk with the design decision part, but there's benefit to be gained from them being that first point of contact for the public. So those risks were noted. And then finally, the funding commitment. So how do we handle a partnership where a local is getting a scope of work that they want, and they're also in control of the budget? So if we were not going to have a max participation, then we're essentially writing a blank check to a local community, and that's not fair for how we partner with every other community in the state. So all these risks were identified, discussed, and mitigated in our project charter. So the way that looks at our world is an interlocal agreement amongst INDOT, county, Fishers, and Noblesville. So all stakeholders were signatories to this. And this really outlined in great detail what the scope, schedule, and budget of the project would be, and roles and responsibilities of everyone involved. So it was it's not just one page, it's a lot of pages, but this gives you an idea, and the intro to the charter really explains why we're engaging in this agreement. The key points for this charter that really set us up was that we did agree Fishers would be the lead agency. However, INDOT was going to be there every step of the way and approve design decisions and be the ultimate decision maker on anything related to the roadway. Henceforth, I'm here, so I have been here to manage that part of the process. Also, the funding commitment. So INDOT agreed to participate $100 million, which is what our solution would have cost, and we capped it so that since Fishers was managing the project, they're essentially also managing the budget. So anything that goes over budget is on the locals to fund. and manage. So that gives them that control and also liability if it goes over budget. Third, we did agree on the scope being 4 grade separated interchanges. That was something a little bit debated because this is a 2-mile stretch of roadway, and 4 interchanges in 2 miles is a really tight design, but we did agree to 4 interchanges. And then finally, the most unique part of this project that has never been done anywhere else in the state is a temporary relinquishment of State Road 37. And that was during the construction phase of the project only. So as of right now, City of Fishers is plowing, filling potholes, cleaning out drainage inlets, and doing all the hard work that INDOT usually has to do on state roads. So again, great deal for us. We made sure this worked out for us. But what it does is give the city ultimate control over a design that's really going to impact their community more so than INDOT. So from there, I'll turn it over to Hatem to explain how we went from this charter to where we are today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Just so everyone's aware, we did try and we tried to shoot for that blank check, but we were respectfully denied. So just to put the project into perspective, hopefully everyone can hear me. The project and the magnitude of this project, we in the City of Fishers, this was obviously one of the unique projects that we've worked on. But for the City of Fishers, we're no stranger to big projects. We've had a lot of big developments coming in downtown on 116th Street. And also we had large transportation projects that also came in the city. One example that I can give you guys is the I-69 and 106th Street interchange. As many of you know, or some of you know, that was just a bridge over I-69. 106 was just a regular 2-lane bridge, and we converted that into an interchange. So a project of that magnitude for 106th Street is, like Jennifer said, it was a development over 5 years. So from inception to construction, a development of that project is 5 years. Now, putting that into a State Road 37 project, that was 1 interchange. State Road 37 was 4 interchanges and 1 intersection. So thinking about it throughout this presentation, if we were going to spend 5 years of development for each and every one of those intersections, we would be 20 years out. 25 years out, because we have one of those intersections. So, so obviously that was not going to be the case. We had to go in and identify certain aspects of those designs and make sure that we manipulate some of those schedules to make sure that we are within a time frame that actually makes sense. Doing the wrong one. So what we did, the approach that we had for this project. Obviously, the City of Fishers was in charge of managing the entire project. So we were in charge of managing consultants. So basically, we had to go out and hire consultants. We were also in charge of the personnel, which meant we were in charge of the stakeholders, which were the residences, the businesses, also working with the with INDOT and all of the other local agencies. We're also obviously involved in the funding. So thanks INDOT for giving us the $100 million, but we also had to manage that $100 million to make sure that all of our construction is basically within that $100 million. Because anything obviously above that $100 million was going to go to the locals. And with that, the locals being Fishers and Hamilton County will probably will split the extra on top of the $100 million. So we had to make sure that we manage that to a scale that we can actually afford. Because obviously INDOT has, like they said, they had a larger pot of money than the cities do have. So we had to make sure that we tighten ourselves a little bit with as far as the scopes and the designs. And we had a schedule to meet. So like I mentioned, we don't have 25 years to build this project. There's a lot of traffic issues that we wanted to fix, and we wanted to fix them right away. So this, if you see in front of you, this is pretty much the makeup of the project team. Sorry, this one. As you see there on top, this is the owners group, what we call the owners group. The owners group consisted of the City of Fishers, which we were pretty much in the driver's seat, along with INDOT, Hamilton County, and the City of Noblesville. Also, INDOT was using federal money, so FHWA, Federal Highway, was the oversight of all these monies. And then from the owners group, we go to the design group. As Jennifer mentioned before, this was a unique initiation to this project. There was something special about it. So what we thought, this is a big, large magnitude project, so we wanted the best around to manage certain aspects of the project development. We also wanted a lot of the local consultants to be involved in such a big monumental project that it spurred us to split the project into phases, into different phases of that project development. Basically, we had an owner's rep group, we had a design group, we also split up the environmental impact analysis group, right of way, which is the real estate that we needed to buy for the project, and also the traffic impact, and that had its own consultant. So as you can see, we kind of made the choice to make it hard on ourselves, but we also understood that it's going to take a lot of effort on our part to manage all of these people, but we also knew that this was for the benefit of the project. A lot of those consultants are really good in certain aspects, or the best in certain aspects of the project. So we wanted those people to have the focus for this aspect of the project. So like, let's say environmental, we want them to be concentrated in environmental for the whole entire project, so that we had that as a separate contract, and so on and so forth. So we had two management groups in the project. These groups were basically a stakeholder group and a consultant group. Stakeholder groups, these were elected officials, these were commissioners, mayors. We also had city employees, city officials employees that worked on the project. We had city of Noblesville employees, Hamilton County employees, obviously INDOT project managers, and we had the businesses and residents. In the consultant world, those were pretty much the group that I showed in the other slide, and there were approximately about 17 consultants. So that was a large task to take for us in the city. So in a project this huge, obviously communication is key. So there's no such thing as over communication. You can say that I talk too much, but it's a story. It's one example of communication. So we had to make sure that we talk a lot with our designers. There's a lot of people involved in the project, and all of them have to be in touch with each other and communicate with each other the right message. As you can see in front of you, there's the owners' meetings and there's design meetings. These weren't always the case. We did not start out with these two groups of people. We started out with the design meetings, and these design meetings for a project for this magnitude were bi-weekly. So all of these people got together in a room and discussed the project, discussed the development of this project, and made decisions and had questions answered and all of that. There was a time after a couple of meetings that we were in, and the designers came up with a question about maintenance of traffic. How are we going to design this portion of this project, and what are we going to do with the road? So for the city officials, we were okay with restricting traffic one lane here and there. Other people in the city of Noblesville were like, well, you can close it. And Hamilton County was like, maybe we can do something in between. So it was not necessarily the best way that we wanted to portray leadership for the group. We had the owners groups were not united in one front. So we didn't want to lose the trust and confidence of our designers. So thankfully for INDOT, they proposed that we split these two groups. We have an owners meetings, which we would, amongst the owners group, we would debate some of these decisions. We would talk to each other and make sure that we have one solution for these issues, and then communicate those problems and those solutions to the design team. And that gave the design group the confidence that we needed for them to do their job and do it right, and they understand that they have a leadership that knew exactly what they wanted. So we didn't want to seem that we were on different directions, so that made us a really strong owners group for these designers to kind of follow suit. So going into the actual design of the project, we had 3 buckets: scope, funding, and schedule. The scope of the project, like Jennifer had mentioned before, we came in with a vision, and that scope was 4 grade separated interchanges, and 1 intersection was right in, right out. So we had a scope. We had a budget from INDOT for construction, $100 million, and obviously the schedule. all of these are all interacting together. They're all dynamic. If we wanted to go a little bit more on the scope, that meant that we had to pay more. And if we paid more, then that meant that we had to go longer in the schedule. Let's say, okay, we want to go all that, but we want to reduce the schedule. We want to make it quicker. That meant that the budget had to go higher. So all of these were kind of pushing and pulling with each other. So we had to manage and balance all of those three aspects of this project together to make sure that we get the best and the most economical solution for all of us. So we'll go through the scope. So the scope of the project, there's a couple of examples that we went through the scope and how we managed it and how we made decisions in the project. So on your left, you can see the solution that INDOT, one of the solutions, one of the options that INDOT had looked at this corridor and said, okay, we can eliminate a lot of these backups for the north-south, but not necessarily the east-west, which pretty much impacted all of Fishers, Hamilton County, and the city of Noblesville. But our vision, which I want to say is a little bit better, I'm sorry, the great separated solution, which was doing both. We had free flow on State Road 37. We separated the traffic between the cut-through traffic that just wanted to go all the way north to Noblesville and the traffic that wanted to go to Fishers and go locally. So that made it a little bit easier. And we also had a lot of models out there in the Keystone corridor. And that was an example that we thought was very, very successful. And we wanted to follow suit with that. Another part of the scope that we had to manage is during the mobility study, we identified the intersections. So if you see here on the left side, the side street, let's assume that this is 126th Street. The side street was elevated a lot higher over State Road 37 than what it is now. So basically, you would have a large bridge that you can see that's going over State Road 37. During some of the meetings that the stakeholders had with the residents and with the businesses, they did not want this corridor to seem industrial. You had a big barrier on State Road 37 that you can't see the other side of it. This wasn't the way that it used to be. We don't like it. We want it different. So we decided that we can go ahead and lower that, let's say 126th Street, we can lower that profile, we can lower it down a little bit in order for someone on one side of the intersection, he can see someone on the other side of the intersection. So now if you go to 126th Street, you don't necessarily see that there is something that is so different than what it was before, because you just go straight in, you see the gas station, you see the dealerships, you see the bicycle store, you see everything on the other side. So you don't even know if there's something underneath you or not. That made it feel a little bit more closer to the people that live there, closer to the businesses. They didn't want to be isolated from everyone else. They didn't want to be east versus west, you know. So that in itself, we had to manage that. So what we did is we depressed State Road 37 a lot more than it was in the mobility study. And that obviously had a trickle effect on our scope and our budget, but we thought that this was something that was really, really needed in the community. And it was going to help everyone, including the city of Fishers as well. Another item in the scope that we did, that we had to manage was the drainage. So obviously when we changed the mobility study from the mobility study to what we have right now, is that we depressed State Road 37 a lot deeper than it was before. So that meant that we had to drain all of these depressions. So from 126, 131st, 141st, and 146, they all had to drain somewhere. The mobility study identified that the solution to that was that we had two large pumps. Those were going to be one on the south, that was serving the 126 and 131st interchange, and that was going to pump the water up in order for it to drain it into a ditch, into a side ditch. Made sense. North side, same thing. 141st and 146, they would have a large pump, and that would pump the water up and drain it into a side ditch. Now, looking at that solution, you would think it makes sense. You know, a pump, what's wrong with a pump? Well, we thought about it long term. If you buy a pump, and it's not just your normal sump pump, it's not a small pump, it's a large pump. That pump requires electricity. That pump requires backup generator. That generator requires a backup generator because INDOT obviously doesn't want their asset to be underwater. We just had a lot of rain that came in this winter, and it was, if we had a pump that went down, we're pretty much underwater. So what we thought about long-term is that you're going to have to maintain these two pumps for the life of this project, for the life of the road. So unless you come in 20, 30 years and decide to bring it back to what it was before, you would have to continue maintaining these pumps forever. So that meant that you had to have maintenance every year on it. You had electricity every year that you have to pay on it. In about 15 to 20 years, you have to buy new pumps. You have to buy new generators. So that is a lot of expense that was going to be on the city of Fishers and Hamilton County as well. And not necessarily that wasn't going to be on the INDOT side, that was going to be on our side, that was some of the maintenance issues that we had to deal with in the future. So we didn't want to give to the people that follow us later on a maintenance nightmare that they'll probably cuss us out when they have to maintain it. So what we decided is that we were going to change that pump solution into a gravity drain solution. What it means is we're going to take it from the holes and we're going to pick 2 points where we can drain those two. One on the south, which was Shoemaker Ditch. It had the fall that we needed, so we can drain everything from State Road 37, the south portion, all the way to Shoemaker Ditch by gravity. Same thing on the north side. We can take 141st and 146 by gravity all the way to the White River. So that in itself solved the issue with the long-term maintenance and having to have a lot of expenses that we're going to have to deal with every single year. Of course, there's going to be some expense to cleaning out these pipes, but that compared to the pumps and the generators and all that it was a very easy decision to do. So how are we going to build this? These pipes were 30, maybe even more than 30 feet down in the ground. So usually the normal practice of building drainage pipes is you cut a trench and you lay the pipe down and then you bury it. Now, if you can imagine 30, 40 feet in the ground, how wide that trench was going to be, you're pretty much eliminating neighborhoods in order for you to put those drainage pipes in. So what we decided, another uniqueness of this project, is that we were going to bore all these lines. What does bore mean? We're going to have a big hole in the beginning and a big hole at the end. We're going to have a machine that is going to push these two drainage pipes from one point to the other. So if you're above and you're not at one of these two bore pits, you don't know what's going on underneath. Everything's normal. No one knows what's going on. It's life as usual. So this was obviously, it came with a price tag, but it was beneficial for the project in the long run. So we knew that this was going to be an initial higher expense, but for the life of the project, it was going to be a lot better than having pumps for the longest term. So being that this is a state route, an INDOT route, maintained by Fishers, a big project that we are managing, unique 4 interchanges, we made headlines with the north drainage lines. The north drainage line, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to try. I practiced this sentence. The north drainage line made headlines nationally. It was the longest trenchless bored curved pipe in the country. It was approximately 2,300 feet long. So you can imagine, from one manhole to the other, it was curved and it was bored for about 2,300 feet. So that was one nice aspect about this project. And this here is a little picture of the bore machine. You can see how huge this is. There's a worker that's in there and you can barely see him. That's how huge that machine was. So that was another scope management that we had. The second bucket was the funding. So in addition to the $100 million that INDOT was putting into the project, that was going to go towards the construction and the construction inspection. So that was the hard costs. That was materials, boots on the ground, construction. What the city and the county were managing were basically the soft costs. We were in charge of managing the design contract negotiations. So you can imagine 17 consultants with their contracts, and we had to manage all of these scopes and all of the fees associated with it. So it was pretty tedious. It was pretty challenging. There was a lot of upset consultants, but it was fun on our side. There's also the right-of-way acquisition. The right-of-way is the real estate that we need to buy to build the project. The real estate, the one thing that I wanted to touch on the real estate part is that sometimes when we design a project, we put a line through saying that this is how much I want to build this project, and it might impact the adjacent businesses or adjacent residents. In normal circumstances, we would say, okay, this project we would need this much, and we would buy it. But for this project, this whole corridor is a mixture of local businesses, car dealerships, and I think a lot of fast food restaurants and CVS's and Walgreens. If you take any of their parking lots out, that pretty much takes the whole business out. You can't necessarily function without your parking lot. So we looked at a lot of these instances in the project, and we had to make a decision whether we're going to take the parking lot, which meant we had to take the whole entire parcel, or we can skinny up that right of way and build a wall or use a guardrail or use a concrete barrier. That meant to us a lot more than taking a business out. We did not build this corridor to take businesses out. We did it for the businesses and for the residences. So it didn't really make sense to take businesses out just to build this project. And another one was the utility relocation. So the utility aspect of this is, since we're digging deep holes, we had to relocate a lot of utilities. There was gas lines, water lines, there was sanitary sewer lines. We had to relocate a lot of those. So they would submit all of their work plans. We would look at them and approve it. Okay, fine, because usually the utility is in public right of way because it serves public purposes. So they don't necessarily pay a right of way fee to be in the public right of way. In some instances, we found here is that some of these utilities have their own right of way. They are in their easement. They bought the real estate to be there. So in order for them to move, we had to pay them to move. So it wasn't the normal way of doing utility relocation. So one example was on 131st Street, the gas company was going to move because we're obviously digging a big hole in the middle. So what they were going to do is just bypass that hole, go south, bore under 37, and go back north and tie in. They gave us the bill. It was about $2 million just to do that relocation. We had the same reaction as well. We looked at it and we were like, okay, we did not really anticipate or expect this to be a very high price tag. So us as an owners group, we looked at it more in depth, and we decided that we can eliminate the boring portion of this project, of this relocation, by incorporating that work with our construction. So instead of them boring under 37, we would have the contractor that's actually going to build the intersection, move traffic to accommodate them doing this relocation open cut. So everybody looked at it, everybody was in agreement to it. The utility was in favor of it. They were like, okay, this works. The contractor was okay with it. We went through it and they gave us the bill. Instead of $2 million, it was $850,000. So that was a big win. And if anything at all, that was just a big example of how the owners group really communicated with each other and communicated with the designers and utility folks, and it was very successful at that point. So, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And then the third part of it, and this is the last part, I promise. This is the project schedule. So we had to find what the critical path of this project is. Obviously, we weren't going to spend 5 years in each intersection. So what we thought of is we started big. We were like, okay, we're going to build all of these all at once. All right, fine, let's go. Let's do the environmental. Can we do the environmental for the whole entire corridor? Yes, sounds good. Design. Can we design the entire corridor all at once and have it ready for construction? We can put a lot of bodies on them from the design point, and we can get it to a point where we can build it. Yes, we can. Can we get the right of way to build all of these projects all at once? No, we can't. So that to us gave us, okay, so right of way is kind of the critical path for us to build all of these projects together. So, okay, we went from 4, we went to 3. Can we do the environmental? Yes, we're doing it for the whole entire project. That's fine. Design, we can design. Right away, we can't. So, okay, we can't do 3. Can we do 2? Design, of course. Environmental, of course we can. Right away, if we stagger them a little bit, if we move one interchange about 6 months or 7 months away from another one, we can do it. All right. So that's the way that we kind of decided that we're going to do one, stagger another, and one, stagger the other. So that way we can approach this project from that standpoint. So we had a plan. We figured out what the critical path was. We started. Obviously, the drainage lines were going in the beginning, so that was a no-brainer. And then we started design and going forward with the other intersections. Now, which one is going first? That was in itself a fight between the owners group. Oh, I want mine. Is it because it's in Fishers? No, it's in Hamilton County. No, we don't want it. We want the Hamilton County first. No, we want the Noblesville one first. We're like, okay, I'm exaggerating. But we looked at the existing traffic pattern. So we looked at the backup that Jennifer showed us in the beginning. There was a mile-long backup northbound. But what another aspect of this project was, there was a mile backup onto I-69. So, and we identified that where the backup started was at 126th Street. So that light turns red, it backs up all the way down to 106th Street. It went past 116th Street and it was a mess. Everybody hated coming up north on 69 and getting off on 116th Street. So what we did is we decided that 126 was going to go first, because if it didn't, we were going to have the I-69 backup for a long time. So we decided we were going to take 126th Street first. We're going to make relief on I-69 all the way down to 465 or all the way down to 106th Street and eliminate that backup. So we decided on 126 is going to be first. Similarly, we were like, okay, 126 first. We can then build 146th Street. We had the 2 lights or the 3 lights in the middle that can provide some gaps for us to actually work on 146th Street without having a lot of through traffic just bulldoze through. So we started with 126th Street. We then moved on to 146th Street. And then we came back and we did 131st, because now 131st can detour 126th and 146th Street. And then the last one, hopefully this August, is 141st Street. And that's the last one that we have. And here is the final schedule. After multiple schedules and iterations, this is the final schedule that we came up with. And as you can see, the 2 drainage lines, the north-south, went first, then 126th Street, then 146th, then 131st, and then 146th. So what really made this project very, very interesting and satisfying on our end is that we really worked with a lot of good people. We worked with a lot of intelligent folks from the design aspect, and we also worked with a lot of intelligent owners. We worked with a lot of good people in the owners group from INDOT, from Hamilton County, from the city of Noblesville, and obviously the city of Fishers. But I can safely say that between the owners group's experience, we had between us over 100 hours of experience, 100 years of experience, 100 years of experience in the civil engineering industry. So that made for easier communication between us, easier decision making, and no one was fighting with anyone. Apart from now, we're still fighting with INDOT together. But obviously, with that being said, another bulk of the heavy lifting was from the public outreach. We can do all what we can do inside, but if the people outside don't know what's going on, they'll still be upset with us. So that put a lot of burden on Keriann and her team to go out and communicate with the businesses, communicate with the residents, and make sure that our message is filtered and made sense to everyone. And if they had any problems with any maintenance of traffic, any issues with construction, they come to us. So without further ado, this is your time.
Okay.
I know we're coming up on probably right at an hour, so I can be concise. But to follow up to what Hatem said, you know, leading the public outreach and business advocacy piece of this project is unique in the sense that you know, a lot of projects don't have this capacity as part of the scope, and so for my team, it was really a matter of advocating and, you know, managing expectations for all of the stakeholders and the audience segments of this project. So when we came on board at the beginning in 2018, ultimately our biggest piece was to learn kind of all of the moving parts of the project, but then also make sure that we had our objectives in tow, which were to manage the awareness of the project, manage output of essential information, because at the end of the day, we want to minimize confusion and help everybody understand that disruption may be happening, but it's manageable. And then, of course, managing expectations of what to anticipate throughout the project. With our role, we had, you know, we had a need to make sure that we were communicating with different segments, different audience segments. So we had the partners and the stakeholders, we had local business owners, and we had the general public and communities. So everyone in those, you know, groups had different needs. And so our biggest role was obviously to be the advocate for the businesses. A big piece of the kind of role that we played was making sure that businesses felt like they had a sounding board, making sure that they had someone that was, you know, watching out for their back, making sure that they understood what was happening. And so by having the role as the agency that was that communication piece for them, kind of took out all of the government piece of it. It made it more approachable. I was a soft landing point, you know, for some of these businesses where if they were stressed out, they were concerned about what was happening, they knew that they could reach out, they had someone to speak to, and then that role from, you know, my standpoint as the face and my team was to then communicate with the city, communicate with Hatem and his team so that we could share those concerns and obviously bring resolve. And then of course the public needs to know what's happening. When there are lane restrictions, if there's any closures happening, they need to understand kind of what that route looks like. And so making sure that we had communication strategies in place to get that word out and minimize disruption throughout the corridor. Doing this right?
Yeah, it's just not coming through right away.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, I think I went.
We skipped one. There's a little bit of lag. There you go.
Okay, there we go. So when we were awarded this project, one of the most important and kind of first steps was that we created a business stakeholder group. So if we're advocating for these businesses, we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity for those who wanted to participate to have a voice and kind of contribute to the group. So we created a State Road 37 business stakeholder group. We created a meetup every month in the beginning. So essentially we had an hour on the third Thursday of every month. And those businesses were able to, we actually did it in person in the beginning, pre-COVID. And we had Hatem and different project partners involved in those meetings. And we would go through kind of a construction update, but then we would also talk through ways that we could get them involved and we could be supporting their business through marketing efforts. So we in the beginning, we did something fun, like a dash cam live stream on social media where we had a media partner take businesses in their car, and we literally drove down the 37 corridor and talked to those business owners, went to their business, had, a video interview. So we did fun collaborative things like that. But also the stakeholder group was key because they shared ideas and asked questions that could then turn out to things that we put in place related to signage and things like that that the city might not normally approve. But because it was a request of the business owners, we were able to make that happen. And I know I'm out of time, so I'm going to go really fast. And we did hold 36 business stakeholder meetings throughout the project. So, and we had over 200 active business stakeholders that were part of our group. So as far as the outreach goes to the public, the biggest piece we did was we branded the project. So we gave it a name called 37 Thrives. The tagline was support the drive, business thrives. We utilized 37 Thrives to be that outward marketing campaign that we ran throughout the duration. So we launched a website that provided all of the project information, and then it served as the baseline of where all of the construction updates landed. So all of our advertising efforts, our social media, our external communication, it all drove the public to that website to see the detour routes and understand kind of the timing of when restrictions were in place and how they could get about their day when construction was limiting their route. And then advertising and social media was a big part of this project. We did have an advertising budget that we were able to deploy. So we leveraged relationships with local media to run advertising in print, radio, digital ads, so that we were getting the word out about 37 Thrives, the impact, the benefit, the ultimate outcome. Social media was used often when we were preparing the public for understanding when key lane restriction was in place, things that would impact the day-to-day life. So that was also a place where we would highlight business owners and share their stories and kind of keep that business support ongoing. And then this is the last slide. This is just a snapshot of in the initial launch. This is just kind of a highlight of advertising efforts, how we were reaching. We had, a breadth of advertising that was going live when 126th Street kicked off its active construction. And then, of course, we continued our advertising efforts throughout the entire construction phases. And of course, with 141st Street still inactive and upcoming, we are not advertising on the campaign at this time, but we have continued to build those tools so that we're able to communicate the messages. So I think that wraps up my section. And Tim, I think this goes back to you. So I think we're out of time, right?
Want to do this, or we'll do some Q&A?
We can do Q&A.
Let's do one. Come on up here. Okay. We'll take a little time here to do some question and answer. Everyone has their own microphone. We'll take, if you have a question in the audience here, raise your hand. We have a microphone here. Let's take it right here. And then we'll check for some that are online, please. Thank you.
So what is your estimated complete cost?
Estimate complete cost. We will find out the final estimate once 141st Street bids, and that hopefully is coming up in August. And usually after a project, we do a lot of reconciliation and we send a lot of these estimates back to INDOT. And once they kind of finalize all of these projects, we get the actual cost of it. So once we're done with 141st Street, we'll definitely have a final number in there. But it's over 100 million.
Okay, let's check. Do we have anybody from, as we're bringing the microphone across, anybody online with any questions? By the way, if you're online, hang with us. We got a game we're playing after this. Our 3 guest speakers have agreed to stay with us for a special game that you can participate in. But let's go to questions again. There you go. Which one of the 92 counties, stop talking. Which one of the 92 counties is not involved with INDOT?
If I counted that number wrong, I apologize. There's one maybe we exiled because there's no state road and they just don't ever drive anywhere. I don't know.
I just want to give you a chance to address that.
Thanks, Donald, for the question. Casey Strange, the diameter of the 2 pipes.
54 inches.
What was the longest one?
It was over half a mile.
Question was, what was the length of the longest?
It was over half a mile.
I think it's, yeah, I think it was around 2,600.
All right. Is there a backflush risk when White River is at or exceeds flood stage?
Our outlet elevation is above the high water mark on at the White River. So we did think about that, and I don't believe we do have a duct bill on it, but yes, it is above the high water mark.
Then we have another question from in the room. Yes.
Well, actually, I guess just appreciation post here, but when you were talking about in particular some of the forethought to, so I work in IT, have for years, and there's a couple dirty words that go together in IT, and it's called tech debt. And so as I was listening to what you were talking about and the thought that you put into the future maintenance cost and all of that, it's very, very easy for the current project team to punt that and leave that to the future folks to deal with it. So I was just really impressed in that part of the conversation of the forethought and the extra investment. And I'd be curious how you kind of negotiated that conversation with all of the various stakeholder groups, all of those owners, to recognize there's that upfront investment. It's not going to be their problem in the future necessarily, but you got them on board with that additional investment. How did that go?
Not easy. I would argue, I think there's understanding of when you explain that benefit and you calculate it and you put numbers to it side by side. But I do think there are situations when politics are involved, there is a little more short-sighted opinion of it's more about what you're spending now and not that future cost. So we did definitely have to go through that. Maybe I'll just talk loud. But yeah, it's more, it was definitely a conversation, and it took a little bit of sales on our end to be able to explain it to the decision makers at the executive level. But it was, once you explained it, and with INDOT being the final decision maker on a lot of these details and being the ones responsible for long-term maintenance, there were times where we just had to put a foot down, but it was never the first reaction. We always tried to work through and figure out the right solution that worked for everybody.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking our guest speakers. We have tokens of appreciation for you in recognition of one of the most interesting, maybe the most interesting project I've ever heard about. This is thank you for sharing your story. We have some PMI coffee mugs for you and certificates of appreciation for each of you that have been officially signed by our officer.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, and as Galen is doing that, handing out the coffee mugs, we're gonna now revert to something a little bit different. So what we have in store for you, I believe, I'm looking across here, the ability to participate in the game of Would You Rather. Would you rather? We're going to play Would You Rather. We're going to have our panel up here answer and address the questions and offer you the opportunity. Yeah, I want more. Thanks. Oh, right. Oh, that's. They're right there. Oh, okay. I got it. All righty. Grab a chair, guys. Relax. Okay. Fire down a little bit. And I happen to have the questions here as well, so I'll kind of speak to them. Squeeze in between here. That. Okay. So if you're online, I think this is through SurveyMonkey. I take a link's being shared to everybody. How about in the room? People be able to give, oh, a QR code. Bam. There must be purpose behind that. A random QR code has appeared in the screens here at Launch Bishops, everyone. Who knows where it can go? And if it works all properly for you, Survey Monkey. Would you rather? You played, Jennifer, you played, right? Keriann, you played. First time, Hatem?
First time.
First time. Rookie. We have a rookie. Yeah, I would have been in that camp a month ago. If it weren't for this chapter,
I'm an engineer, I'm sorry. We don't.
Dittos. I feel. Alrighty. So we're actually going to start off with a difficult one here to do that. So this is would you rather. You're going to be given two options, and the challenge to you is which of those would you prefer of two choices, and if you have a little backstory as to why. Well, we may get into that up here with us, and then we'll see how the audience chooses. I was out of sync more often than I thought I could. So we'll see how we go here. These. The first one's kind of it's an interesting and deep question. It's a mind control question. A mind control question. Okay. It's gonna be who would you rather exert mind control over? So I'm kind of waiting for it. I want to wait for it to come up. We'll get it up on screen.
INDOT.
Okay. Okay, here it is. Would you rather, let's fine print there, but I think our audience can see. Okay, would you rather control an executive steering committee with your mind or control a working project team with your mind? If you had the ability to control the minds, would it be the executive steering committee or the project team? Jennifer.
Executive steering committee.
INDOT. Executive steering committee.
Executive steering committee. I agree with that. Let's see. Do we have an answer from? Well, we have responses coming up yet. We all went. We all went to executive steering committee on that. That's interesting. Yeah. Go for that. Are we?
I'm not seeing any responses.
No responses. Okay, well, you can all vote that are online and in the room with us here. These, okay, shall we go to the second one? Edna? Would you rather, oh, okay, this is the second one. Would you rather be able to see 10 minutes into your own future or 10 minutes into the future of someone else? Keriann, I'm going to start with you on this one. Yeah, this is a different one.
I think my own.
Your own, Hatem.
Someone else's.
So, do you have someone in mind, Hatem?
INDOT.
Which of course takes me to Jennifer. Jennifer!
Someone else.
Yeah. And would you care, do you have someone in mind?
Not anyone in mind, but I would not want to know my own 10-minute future, but knowing someone else's, and that there's a way you can help that person's situation in the next 10 minutes, I guess.
I like that, that's involved. But I think someone else, for similar reasoning, that's there, okay? And, we have a tie, I believe, 50-50 there, which means we may have had two good participants. All right, let's now, we have three, okay. Which one won there? That was
10 minutes into
your own, okay. Let's try and people are just now warming up and getting used to this. So this is cool. The third question here, really right up the alley of the speakers here. Would you rather have all traffic lights you approach be green or to never have to stand in line again? Would you rather have, Hatem, you're getting the first crack at this one.
Green.
All traffic lights green. That's the city.
Yeah, I did never have to stand in line again. I like something in traffic. Because then I can look around at the signal on the road and like see what's
Jennifer, thanks for sharing. That weirdly seems extremely appropriate. Keriann?
I say all green because I'm always late.
Green.
So it is. I am always late, and so if I can cruise through, it is like a winning day.
That's good. I hate lines. I'm gonna go. I can't hate lines. Isn't a red light like a line? Yeah, maybe I'm gonna parse that one. And what do we have here? We have a majority for line. Don't stand in line. Okay, so I'm on the plus side. Jennifer a little bit on this one. All right, next one. Would you rather have an absentee project sponsor or a micromanaging project sponsor? Well, this is a fun one. This is about project sponsors that you've had experience with. Would you prefer one that was absentee or micromanaging? Jennifer.
That's really tough. Because absentee is like you're gonna show up at the 11th hour and change something that you've been working towards, but micromanaging, at least you know the expectation. I guess I'd say micromanage.
Micromanage. Jennifer takes a stance.
With an E.
Barely.
I'm very confident about that, but okay.
Okay. Keriann? Yeah.
I would say a hybrid, but that's probably not allowed.
No, that's called
I'll
cheating.
I'll go with micromanage, because I feel like then maybe you could earn their trust and they can.
Oh, okay, so that fits with what you do and what you're good at.
So,
Well, okay, I'm not gonna end up there myself, but we'll see. Hatem?
I'd go absentee.
Absentee, I go absentee too. Why? What's your rationale?
If he's absent in the beginning, he's definitely going to be absent at the end.
You're not worried about something showing up. Okay, all those in the studio audience here, with the raising of hands, please. Which of you would want a project sponsor that's absentee? I have 3 and 2 half-hearted hand raises here. Okay, with the raising of hands enthusiastically, how many would like a micromanaging sponsor? Wow, you guys are brave, frankly, I think. Okay, and the majority here went that. I'd say about 65%. Alrighty, let's go to the next one here. And there we are with the online people. Okay, then with absentee. With respect to project work, would you rather ask for permission now or forgiveness later? With respect to project work, would you rather ask for permission now or forgiveness later? I think I'm curious.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Yeah, I'm going forgiveness, always forgiveness. Let's check with the studio audience here. All those that say forgiveness later, please raise your hands. Risk takers and permission first, permission now. And well, bless you people. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And where were we? Forgiveness, yeah, forgiveness online as well. All righty. Oh, this is funny. With respect to your significant other, would you rather ask for permission now or forgiveness later? I think we just changed the context of the question. And that's it. You get to go first.
Forgiveness later.
Forgiveness later. Forgiveness later for you. And we have Jennifer thinking hard again. That's good.
I'm really trying too hard on this. Forgiveness.
Yeah, I'm going to be a permission now. Kind of a person. We're going to sort this out, and I'm not going to live with the follow later on. How many of you in the audience there, with respect to your significant other, would ask for permission now? We had a few more people than the first time. That's why I want to see the difference there. And who would go for forgiveness later? About 40%. That's there. I tipped the scale on this one. Oh, wow. Construction zone question coming up right here now. With assuming it takes the same time, would you rather take the slow construction zone or the longer detour? And right now, all I can imagine is Jennifer's question because of her state of mind, her answer here on this one. Okay, assuming state, would you rather take the slow construction zone or the longer detour? And Jennifer, you're up actually.
Longer detour, hands down, I don't want to expose risk to the workers at my site.
That sucks. Keriann, stop that.
I know. Thanks. I would say the longer route also, because it makes me nervous driving through construction zones, especially at night. I'm like that old. So it's nerve wracking. So if I can give the construction team their space, then that's better.
Makes sense.
Construction.
Whoa, okay. You want to see what's going on? Huh? Or what?
Yeah, I
Professional
just want to see
curiosity?
what they're doing and how they're doing it. Maybe you can, I can learn something here and there. It's just maybe just seeing it.
Let's check with our audience. All of those that would rather take the slow construction zone, raise your, oh, I didn't say, well, I'll do that afterwards. Slow construction zone. Who'd take the slow construction zone? Okay, and who would take the longer detour? Show of hands. A dramatic majority of longer detour, which is where I would go also, because it would make me feel like I was getting somewhere. The time was the same. I got head nodding. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Oh, goodness. Construction, it's Construction Worker Safety Week. Is that correct? We have a question that's along these lines. This has to do with, would you rather see the penalty for speeding in a construction zone be, this is the penalty for speeding in a construction zone. Should the penalty be a permanent 45-mile-per-hour speed governor or having their spouse drive them everywhere for the rest of their life? Your choices again are permanent 45-mile-per-hour speed governor or having your spouse drive you everywhere you go for the rest of your life. Yeah, I think it's you. 45. Why so definite?
I have to have my independence, so.
Oh, okay, that's, yeah, already.
I would say that. No idea. I would go with the governor.
You're gonna go with the 45-mile speed governor? And why?
Because I think about it as someone else's shoes that they have, now you have to listen to, like, you're just gonna argue like that. Just put the governor.
They're gonna always remind you that this is the reason why.
Yeah, that's just gonna be a whole, like, it's a whole thing for both parties, but only one person was the guilty party, now both are punished.
Let's check in with the audience here. The 45-mile-per-hour speed governor. Choices for that. Pretty big majority. Or having your spouse drive you everywhere the rest of your life. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not with you guys.
Drive
I'm
them,
gonna go
so
with
we're
45.
assuming it's somebody else.
Yes. Well, okay. Now that's a very excellent point. If it's somebody else, maybe
Because none of you
I
are
can go
gonna
there.
be speeding through
I
a
can do
construction.
that.
That's true, 'cause we would never do that.
Yeah. If it's somebody else, it's somebody else's punishment, somebody else's spouse, significant other. What do we say? Spouse. Yeah. Okay. Very good. We'll move on. So we see this. Okay. Oh wow, this one seems to be specific to you guys somehow. Would you rather manage a project with a state, a county, and 2 cities, or one with your mother-in-law, a crazy uncle, and 2 worthless nephews? Does this even totals at home? That time you get to choose. Is it the crazy family members or your life over the past 5 years?
My life over the past 5 years, all day.
Very good. And
Absolutely.
you guys have worked through everything by now. All right. Audience here, who'd rather work with 4 municipalities here, a state, a county, and 2 cities, or your mother-in-law, crazy uncle, and 2 worthless nephews? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go with the first one. The state, the county, and the 2 cities. Who'd rather work with that? Wow, you guys have been inspirational. Well, nearly all the audience. Did any pick the crazy members of the family? Well, congratulations, you brave soul. We have one. That was that. Yes, right. What is this? You have a bad experience with 2 cities, a county, and a state?
It just sounds so, I don't know, it sounds complicated with Bill, but I could probably just, I don't know, just take over and, yeah, I don't know. It's
And she also has a wonderful family. All righty. We'll move on to the next one here, which is, would you rather be able to teach an old dog new tricks or a veteran project manager new software? Would you be able to teach an old dog new tricks or a veteran project manager new software? An old dog new tricks for you? Okay. Keriann goes with the dog, new tricks as well. Hatem, dog new tricks. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the dog new tricks. Okay, audience, so dog new tricks. Okay, a lot. Okay, a veteran project manager, new software. Oh, brave souls. We have it's about 25, 30% or so went with the project manager, new software. Very cool. Innovators, I think you are. Next one up here is, would you rather run a city or a business? Would you rather run a city or a business? And Hatem, I think it's you. Guys have past experience with both.
It's a trick question.
I think they're all trick questions.
City. Go with city.
City, says the guy from this. Yes, Jennifer.
I would say city as well. Just more familiar with government life practicing.
Okay, Jennifer says city as well. Okay. And Keriann?
I would say business. I think it's hard to run a city, and there's so many moving parts, and at the end of the day, I don't know that you please everyone. You just can't.
I just think that the city is a thankless job. And I'm going to be a business category. We split up here on the panel. Let's see how the audience votes in here. Who'd rather run a city? Whoa. Whoa, we have one. We have one on that. And who would run the business? And the vast majority of everybody else. All righty, let's see. Is this, I'm going to see how, no, I'm going to save this one. Okay, we're going to save a few others. I'm looking and checking on the time here. I want to thank you guys for your participation in this. Hope it was fun. And we want to recognize people, members of our audience, with a raffle, correct? So at this point in time,
As well as some folks online, while we're doing the in-person piece, you'll be preparing. the
okay, if you hung in there and you're online, we have gifts, raffle gifts for you. And you have the ones, Galen, for those in the room.
Yes. I'm shaking them.
So quick question, did everybody has a ticket, right?
Oh, that's right, so you give me a ticket.
In case you're gonna bring up, the book that is going to be awarded.
Let's go with, no, let's go with this one.
All right, so,
Wow.
folks in the room, one of you, the first person that he selects here, will get this lovely book. Please see me, make sure you give me your information so that I can send it to you.
You're gonna have me do this? And have most of the majority of these people go, he didn't pick me? I do that. I know. Now I'll have to pick myself. Oh, the ticket number is. Oh, it's off only by one digit. The last four digits are 4072. 407. Must be present to win. 4072. Nobody left. Check your tickets.
Okay, I think we know whose it is.
What? 40. We had only one person that left. No 40. We'll go to the next one. Hatem, please select this one. I was obviously bad luck. Thank you. Hatem selects. Use my.
Winning ticket 4063.
Pick another one. I shouldn't have taken a ticket in the first place. Can you believe that? I actually did.
All right, winning ticket 4058.
Yes, we have a winner in the room. We've done it. Hatem, rock star. All right, and now for online. Do we have an online? Oh, no. Oh,
We are going to award another
oh, 4.
to the next one.
924071.
There's a winner. All right, congratulations. Know. Enjoy your coffee, tea, or milk.
Casey, are you ready with our two online winners?
I am. I am.
Okay,
Do you just want me to say it from here?
yeah.
I was a Boy Scout. I was only allowed to carry one.
All right. So for the online, we have the Way We're Working Isn't Working book and randomly generated Greg. That is the only name that was listed. So Greg, send a message to president@pmicic.org with your information. We'll also make an effort to look you up in the registrations as well. And then for the lovely mug, we have Hillary Evans.
Hillary Evans.
Same
Hillary
here.
Evans, congratulations. You have a PMI mug. Thank you. Hurry up. And we are now able to conclude exactly on time. Somehow we made it all happen. Thank you once again to our wonderful panelists and speakers today. Thank you for showing up online. Thanks for hanging with us. We hope you enjoyed the program. We'll see a lot of you again in a month with another fantastic program. Good night, everyone. Drive safely.
Drive safe.
For the folks who are still in the room, please, there's a plethora of food over there. Feel free to take a box.
Mix and match.
Go for it.